Brenton, I got you a present. Open it up.
Oh, thanks for remembering my birthday, Nathan. Let me just... Oh my.
I know. It's a map to El Dorado.
Oh, Nathan, let's go right away. Let's find the lost city of gold.
Now dig on this.
Welcome to Classic Movie Banter.
You're like that kid like sitting up and down in the chair, just like, woo! It's with your little like streamer hat on.
No, you know when you see like little kids like in high chairs, like when they're like little toddlers or whatever, and like you haven't formed words or whatever, but they get excited and they start like jigging up and down and banging like their fists on their little plastic table.
That's you, mate.
That's me 24/7. I'm fucking trying to sleep and I'm just like, fucking hell. Like I just need to sleep. But anyway, welcome to the show, Classic Movie Banter. You know that podcast where me, that guy, you know that guy Brenton, and that other guy over there, you know him, he's Nathan.
Happy birthday.
We talk about movies that are older than 20 years. 20
years.
Literally 20 years today, guys. And we tell you, our lovely listeners, whether those movies are still worth watching today. And more importantly, if it's worth watching with a bunch of mates on a Thursday night, just inviting them around, getting the caramel popcorn ready to go, getting the fucking s'more on the fire.
Here we go.
You know what I mean? I've never had a s'more, by the way, but, you know, I presume they're pretty good.
You've never had a s'more? Christ, what rock do you live under?
It's a good one.
My one's called Airs.
It's a really nice one.
You like that boulder. Look, happy birthday, Brenton. Congratulations on making the ripe old age of 25. How do you feel, mate?
Well, I'm just happy to be alive at this point, you know what I mean?
Like, who isn't?
Like, to make it to a quarter of a century, you know what I mean? Like, throughout history, most human beings wouldn't have lived that long, you know what I mean? So I consider myself one of the lucky few, the happy few to have been blessed with 25 years of life so far. It's only downhill from here, Nathan.
And look, mate, you're older than the movie we're reviewing today, The Road to El Dorado.
Hey, The Road to El Dorado. Nathan, do you know when that movie was released?
Was it the year 2000, Brenton?
It was.
Oh.
Do you know who directed it?
Oh, fuck if I know. Someone from DreamWorks.
It was Eric Bibo Bergeron and Don Paul. Oh,
Bilbo, that's right. Yeah. His name was in the credits. I should know that.
Bibo, not Bilbo.
Oh.
Don't fuck with his name. His works include obviously Road to El Dorado, but Shark Tale, which I've never seen.
You've never seen Shark Tale?
Hey, fuck off. Settle down. It's all good.
What?
You haven't seen you hadn't seen Silence of the fucking Lambs until we reviewed it, so just calm down over there, Nathan.
Mate, but Shark Tale's such a meme. You should watch Shark Tale.
Is it any good? Like, I think
no,
that shit.
It's no good at all. But it's like a fun kind of shit where you have like Will Smith and Angelina Jolie just fucking about at a car wash underwater.
I just thought of the image of someone taking a fun shit, like, yippee! Plop, like, you know what I mean?
I'm pretty sure there is actual shit in this movie, but Robert De Niro plays a shark, Brenton. It's a good time.
Like De Niro's in it?
De Niro's in it. They got Oscar winners in it. It's great.
Who else is in it?
So Angie Jolie, Will Smith, Robert De Niro. There's probably others I'm forgetting, but like I feel like Snoop Dogg's in it or something like that. Like there's a DJ character that's like really good.
I'm gonna look up
this
cast
director's
list
other
right
work
now.
is evidently very good. Watch Shark Tale, mate. The DreamWorks catalog just in general is so fucking weird. Like
you just said it was shit.
It's like a good shit. Like I'm not repeating myself here. You know, it's like when you walk out of the bathroom and you've taken a good shit and you feel lighter and better. Like, it's that kind of feeling.
Okay, I'm going to just start reading out names here of who's in this cast because it's intriguing. So, Will Smith, obviously, Angelina Jolie, like you said.
Yeah, who are the new ones?
Renee Zellweger.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Robert De Niro, Jack Black. Martin Scorsese plays someone in this.
That's right. Movie. Yeah, he is in this. I want to say he plays another shark because it's like a gag that De Niro and Scorsese are together.
I wonder if he directs him at all in the film. Is there a shark that's just kind of like
Scorsese's fingerprints are not on that side of the camera.
Good thing too, you know.
I mean, you know, watch it. You'll never watch it, but you should watch it. Like, it's a fun time.
Okay, but that's what we're not here to talk about that DreamWorks animation today, Nathan. We're here to talk about The Road to El Dorado, which I chose.
Well, for my birthday, I chose to watch Emperor's New Groove for the show, and here you've chosen Road to El Dorado.
I followed it up with an animation that I remember enjoying as a child and watching lots of times and having a good time watching it. So yeah, I brought The Road to El Dorado into the studio and I said to Nathan, sit down and watch this thing, and he said no, and I held a gun to his head and I said, do it now, and he did it. So
yeah, you know, I choose life, Brenton. I always choose life.
All right, Nathan, I got a question for you.
Yeah,
you got to pitch me The Road to El Dorado.
Well, since it's your birthday, do you want to pitch it?
Yeah, I do. All right, so
didn't even hesitate. Can you pitch me the movie?
So we open with a song by Elton John, and we're like, oh, hey, Elton is like a candle in the wind. And then we get into the movie. And
What's this movie about?
So it's about these two con artists called Miguel and Tulio. And by con artists, I mean that they just go gambling, you know what I mean, in Spain, and they have loaded dice. That's the extent of their conning.
Riveting.
And they happen upon some lackey who owns a map to the lost city of gold, El Dorado.
Ooh.
And they get taken by this idea, and so they bet on the map, and by perchance they end up on a ship that is heading to find new places in the new world, and they find their way off that ship in a storm, and then they rock up on some piece of land, and they don't know where they are, but they still have their map to El Dorado, so they realize that where they've landed, there are some landmarks that are also on their map. And they try to find the lost city of gold, and they may or may not find it. And they may or may not be mistaken for great and powerful gods.
Yeah.
Nathan, that is the road to El Dorado.
That is the road to El Dorado. Thanks for listening, listeners. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll see you next week.
Yeah, we'll see you next week on Classic
That was
Movie
El
Network.
Dorado. No, yeah, great pitch, you know. If I was Jeffrey Kratzberg or whoever runs DreamWorks, I'd fund this project. It's interesting, because, like, this was... Because, like, if you look at the DreamWorks lineup, they made Ants. Then they made... Then they made bloody Prince of Egypt, which we've reviewed. Give it a listen, listeners. Great app. And then they made this. And it's very funny because, like, if you look at that catalog, they're three very different films, aren't they, Brenton?
Well, I kind of like that as well. I like that we go to more serious with Prince of Egypt, and I like that they followed it up, and they were like, let's do a fucking adventure comedy and make it a good time. And, you know, that's what they set out to do.
Yeah.
Nathan, I don't know if it would have been greenlit. Like, it's a pretty rando idea. Like, you know, you know, Exodus, like, how can you go wrong? And that's like, oh, two conmen fucking trying to find El Dorado, which, like, most young children would have, like, no point of reference to what El Dorado is or why it's important.
Unless you watch, like, Dora the Explorer. Like...
But, like, remember, Dora the Explorer didn't exist. This is the year 2000.
No.
So it's a bit of a gamble, I think.
It is, but I don't know. When you think about the premise of, like, oh, you know, some young rough hooligans off into an adventure to find some treasure, like, that kind of thing works well, you know. I don't think this is a risky film, Brenton. This isn't, like, you know, the Rear Window of its day. Like...
Oh, no, I'm not saying... I'm just saying the concept itself, I think trying to, you know, having their point of reference, something that I don't think is in, like, a child's scope necessarily.
But I think that works in the film's favor because of that mystery of what the fuck is El Dorado.
Totally.
You know?
Totally.
Although they said, like, the opening scene, it's like, oh, it's a city of gold. It's like, we get it. Like,
yeah, Elton John tells us.
He does tell us, yeah.
So I bought this movie in. I'd seen it many times as a kid. I really loved it as a kid, and I hadn't watched it in years. And I've been praying that it would hold up and still be okay. But Nathan, what did you think? Do you think it holds up? Do you think I'm insane? Do you think there's good things here? Do you think it's a mixed bag, or do you think it's the best thing you've ever seen?
Jesus, stop holding the spotlight on me, Brenton. I'm not answering all these questions. Look, you're definitely insane, but not for reasons about El Dorado. But as far as the movie goes, I was very surprised by this movie. Like, really, really surprised. In the sense that I didn't know narratively it was going to do what it was going to do. Because, like most of the films we review, I go in blind. So when I think of a movie of the road to El Dorado, I presume the whole film is about them trying to get to El Dorado. A la like an Indiana Jones film or something like that, right?
Sure.
But I think... especially in the non-spoiler section, going into this movie, if you've never seen it before, you need to know, and I think you do need to know, that they find El Dorado really early on. Like, really, really early on. And the actual premise of this movie, which you said before, is them being mistaken for the gods. Like, that's the movie. The movie's like them just fucking about in El Dorado, like, pretending to be gods. And, like, and it's very interesting watching that in 2020, even watching this in, like, you know, just 2000, because you're watching some white Spanish men rock up in, you know, pre-Columbian Latin America and kind of running the place. And, you know, they've been taken for these gods. So I don't want to be that guy, but I don't think the premise is very politically correct in that sense. And the El Doradians, they're kind of taken for these kind of, like, simple, kind of naive kind of people to instill these clear idiots as their gods.
I get your point. I understand your point. I get where you're coming from in terms of, you know, being in the year 2020 and whatnot. I would argue that race does not play a part in them being mistaken for gods. There's clearly, like, you know, there's clear like things that, like, deities they're worshipping, and they happen to be they happen to follow the guideline, I guess, of two figures. and a beast they are riding, so to speak. So like that's how the
Yes.
mistake it. But I'd also argue as well that the movie makes sure to be clear that the El Dorado, the population of El Dorado do in fact, their leaders figure out that they're not gods.
No, and you can see it from like a mile away, and you know that's kind of like.
I'm sorry, I'm sorry to spoil it, but I'm just like going back on your point and just.
But also you kind of need to know all this because I was really gearing up for like a road buddy cop movie. Like I was really expecting that, and like you feel like with the title, we'll get to title talk, I guess. But with the title and kind of with the way the film opens, like they're stowing away on a ship. You know, here we go, let's go to El Dorado. Yep. I was kind of like, I felt overall with this movie that I don't know. I'm not going to say whether I like it or not yet because I'm still trying to work that out. To be honest with you, I feel like the pacing is all over the place because I feel like every 10 minutes the movie is redeciding what it wants to be, in my opinion.
Yes and no. I think like I agree. I think like we find El Dorado in the first 20 minutes?
Yeah.
20 minutes
It's
and
so
we're in El
quick.
Dorado and so we're in there. But in saying that, I think the movie's got a really good setup. Like I like all the setup of you know, going from Spain, like how that all happens, how it introduces the characters and whatnot, and how they get there. And then we have like the classic montage of like fucking going through the forest and then finding the city. But to your point, like yeah, I understand, but like I think there is a clear 3-act structure in there at the same time. You know what I mean? Like the film's opening half an hour like sets up, you know, what it is we're viewing, and then the second act there's a clear conflict that comes into question, and then it's seemingly resolved, and then we go into the third act when that conflict comes back into the forefront. But the whole time getting away from the plot though, and whatnot. What do you think of the characters? Like, do you think?
Oh
do you think-
Christ! What a breath of fresh air! What an absolute breath of fresh air, Brenton. I haven't like fallen in love with animated characters like this in a very, very long time, mate.
Yeah, man. I basically like everyone in this movie.
Oh, I don't like everyone. In fact, I think it's only the main two guys I really love.
Oh, I love them. I love their dynamic. I love their
and they're
chemistry.
actually funny. They're genuinely laugh out loud funny. Like they're really good.
Totally. They should start a podcast. They should take over our jobs. You know what I mean? Like,
bring on Kevin Kline and Kenneth Branagh. And it's very funny. So we have a Wild Wild West reunion, Brenton, which I think is the greatest gift of all. Because I don't think this would have worked El Dorado if we had Will Smith and Kevin Kline. So I'm glad they.
Well, do you
switched
think
it
they
up.
were on the set of Wild Wild West and like Branagh was like sitting without his legs in his fucking chair and Kevin Kline was playing with his fake boobs and they were just like, you know what, we should do like an animation together at some point.
Yeah.
You know, like.
But that's the thing. I tried digging for the research to try and find if it was Wild West that got these two together, but I couldn't find the link. But it must have, because they made that film in 98 and this came out in 2000, so there must have been the crossover, right?
Let's just presume.
Yeah.
Let's just presume.
Let's presume this is another fruit of the loom from Wild Wild West, you know? Like
It's that movie just keeps on giving.
Oh,
you know
doesn't
what I mean?
it though? And it's funny because like because when I was reading about this, you know, they recorded all the lines together, they improv'd a lot in the studio, so like and it shows, and also like props to the animation department as well for a bunch of reasons, but especially for the character facial design, like they're really expressive in a way that you don't see in a lot of animated movies. Like
I agree. Yeah,
there's a lot of good visual gags there.
Yeah, like I think it's like we not only do we get like these vast like open landscapes and you know like beautiful imagery, like beautiful effects like water effects and the effects on the gold and whatnot, but like you said, we also go close in and we can go close in, and there's lots of interesting kind of shots, I guess you can say, of just like expressive characters that kind of like tell the story a lot. Like, so the banter is great and whatnot, but like even so, some of the visual gags, like you said, are just like laugh out loud funny.
They're genuinely hilarious. Like I was laughing a lot in this movie, and that really propped the movie up. I thought like, oh thank God, like it's really good. Like in the same way when we did Chicken Run, like it really helped that the animation department were working harder than the script kind of gave them. Like there were a lot of extra kind of nuggets there. And in saying that, visually, I think this movie holds up perfectly. Like
totally. The actual city of El Dorado is gorgeous.
Oh,
it's like a place I want to visit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's a place you want to find. You want to hang out. You know, hang out with the I love the locals as well. I love the chieftain. I think he's awesome. Every time he's on screen,
he doesn't do much though.
He has a few scenes. He has a few moments that I really like him. Like as a guy, I'm just like, this guy's great. And then let's talk about the antagonists. Because you have you have Cortez, who's like kind of like the overriding kind of like in the background, like this force that's expanding the whole time.
Yeah.
And then you have a certain other member of the El Dorado community that is clearly just like the villain straight up. He's just like, let's just fucking sacrifice everyone, which is pretty dark for a kids movie as well. You're just like,
it's like an easy cartoon villain because you're like, oh, he must be the bad guy if he wants to sacrifice everyone.
There's an initial scene in this movie that establishes he's the bad guy, apart from the fact that he acts like a fucking evil prick.
Oh Christ, he's like twirling his mustache every scene, isn't he? Like
when he fucking like opens that sack and there's like a human being in there and he gets his fucking like weapon and he's gonna like club this dude. I was like, as a kid, I was like, holy fuck. Like, you know, like.
Yeah, as a kid, you would have been jolted by this, right? Like, was this film scary for you as a kid?
No. Okay, I'll talk about the context of me as a child watching this, because I remember watching this and not being, because I know how you said, oh, this is a sure sell like adventure movie, but like, I remember like, I didn't see this in the cinema. I saw this at like, do you remember how Wet n Wild, that fun theme park on the Gold Coast, had like
like the dive-in movies, like.
Yeah, had like the dive-in movies, and I remember I was there one night and I watched like the first half of this thing.
That'd be good when they're on the ship. You could be like rocking the water yourself.
Hell yeah, man. But like, I remember like they were like the Road to El Dorado, and I was like, what the fuck's this shit? And at that time, like, I remember I really wanted, there was something, it was like the movie was either going to be Spy Kids, I think, or The Road to El Dorado. And I was like, fuck, man, I want to watch Spy Kids. That shit sounds awesome.
But you settled for this.
And they put this on, and I'm so glad they did, because like, I was in. I was so into this world. I was so engrossed by what was going on. And I don't remember there was a moment in this movie that got scary necessarily. I remember there's one bit, and it's a bit that involves like spiders and some interesting like, scary
I hear you.
imagery
Yeah.
that's just like kind of thrown on the screen. That was kind of unsettling, I would say, as a child. But for the most part, like I was into this. You know what I mean? Like it was so interesting. It was so wild, and I was just like, these characters are so funny, you know. And I don't necessarily get all these jokes, but I like where this is going. Like it was a fun movie, you know.
But here's the thing with the villains, and like this is one of my biggest gripes with the movie. It feels very muddled as to like what antagonist the film wants to focus on, because you got Cortez in the background, you know, kind of being like, oh, they're gonna invade, and you know that at one point. But that storyline with Cortez really is anticlimactic.
Yeah, I would say, oh, is it? I think that's one of my favorite bits in the movie. I think
nothing happens.
For me, it's clear the antagonist is like the priest the whole time. I think Cortez is just a force in the background that is like, it's just a happening that is.
He's the emperor, while as like, you know, the priest is Darth Vader.
That priest is just, he's fucked, man. Like, there's a point as well where like one of the characters acknowledges like how fucked that guy is, and they're just like, dude, like this guy is fucking nuts.
In his defense, I didn't actually think that. I didn't think he was insane or anything like that. I think he was just doing his job. Because at the start, when like he first meets him, like he's like giggling sinisterly, but like at the end of the day, because when we try to actually find his motives, he's just trying to, you know, do what a priest does, which is, you know, segue the next calendar. And yet the ancient Mayans had sacrifices. That's what they did. So like when he does that, I wasn't like surprised or going like, how dare you gasp? I was like, no, you're just doing your job.
Yes and no, Nathan. Yes and no. There's a difference between doing your job and like gloating and like, you know, getting glee, getting satisfaction from like, you know, human fucking sacrifice. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, I know the obvious thing that human sacrifice is bad now. We know that. But like back then, it was as normal to their culture.
when literally no one else in that community is like for it, and he's the one being like, fuck man, like I read this shit in the stars and whatnot, and like, you know, that's the case. And he's like, we have to do this to like survive and prosper as a community. Like that's I get your point, and it's a different time and whatnot. Like I get that he's saying that he's doing his job, but there's a point that it's like, it's becoming it's a power dynamic, you know what I mean? He's like, fucking make these kids fear me, you know what I mean? Because I want this sense of power, and
he turns into a little Cersei where he's like rule through fear.
Exactly, but he's trying to rule. That's the point. He's not doing it for the benefit of the community to a certain extent.
Yeah, I get that. He just, to be honest, he just feels so lazily written. Like they were like, okay, we got it. We need to have a bad guy in this village. Let's make it a priest so we can do some fun magic shit, and then let's do it human sacrifices because that's like the obvious thing. Like
that's the obvious thing. That'll get the 5-year-olds in.
that'll sell tickets. But you know what I mean? Like it's just he doesn't.
Yeah, totally. I agree. Like he's inconsistent.
There's no goals. Like
I think the goal is that he wants to have the sense of power, and he wants to be like as power hungry as he can be. And like,
but here's the thing: he instills them as gods in the first place. Like he could easily just have them like not be gods and still be the priest.
That's right. But at the same time, I think we'll talk about this more in spoilers. But like he's constantly like challenging this hierarchy, like over the chieftain as well. Like, you know what I mean? He's trying to like get as close to that as he can be to like have ultimate power, as they say. But not only that, like he just becomes like driven by just like like it's clear that he's insane at a point. That he's like clearly just like
later on he does, yeah. But that's also because he does some ancient rituals. Like we'll get to more on spoilers, I guess.
Oh, it's not even so much that. It's more so that he's just like, oh yeah, let's fucking kill people.
But that's the thing. I think he's just being sinister and insane for the sake of it. You know what I mean? Like it's like the movie knows it needs to suddenly escalate, so they're like, fuck it, now he's crazy now. You know what I mean? Like it doesn't feel earned.
I think he was crazy the whole time. I think as soon as he stepped out, you're like, that guy's fucking nuts. You know what I mean? Like, like, and like, I get that it's like, you know, it's very convenient for him just to be like, oh, he's crazy. He's a crazy, insane dude that just wants human sacrifice.
And that's all he is.
Yeah, pretty much. Pretty much. But like, he wants the power. He wants the power over that community.
I didn't feel any tension in this movie because the antagonists both felt so weak. Like, this movie is so predictable to a bone. Like, you can almost like call what every scene's going to be about. Like, here's the scene where they, you know, like the people, and here's the scene where they have to do a challenge. It's like, you know, I felt like apart from the actual dialogue itself, I thought the script overall was kind of boring.
I think this is a common occurrence in the show, Nathan. Like for me, it's like I get your point. I get your point about the plot. Like you're a big plot man, and you like a really intricate plot and interesting stuff.
I just want Da Vinci Code, Brenton. Is it too much to ask for the Da Vinci Code set in El Dorado?
But at the same time, I just think it's executed really well, and I think it's always fun. It's always vibrant, and the fact that this movie goes for like under an hour and a half, and it jam packs as much as it does into it, I think is great.
You know what? I think as well, in 2020 as well, this feels insanely derivative. But at the time it wouldn't have, because you know why, Brenton? For me personally, this film feels like a perfect mix between The Emperor's New Groove and Atlantis.
Whoa. So you should really love this by making that comparison.
You think if you said that to me going in, I'd be like, yeah. But because of that, and obviously both those movies came after El Dorado, so like, I can't fault El Dorado for it. But in 2020, I feel like everything El Dorado tries to do, I've seen done better in either Groove or in Atlantis. By the way, the third act is essentially the same third act as Atlantis.
Is it?
Except for the battle, because it never fucking happens. Like, all that setup is essentially there.
I don't know if it is.
They discover Atlantis. Turns out the leader there is not what the place needs, and suddenly the new guy's got to stay, and like, you know what I mean? Like, I've kind of seen this all done before there.
Yeah, I don't know, dude. Like, I get your comparison like between the vibe of the worlds and whatnot, but I still say that like I don't know if I've seen a movie, a kids movie, an animation that is kind of like El Dorado. I think it's very original in terms of like its visual style, not so much its plot.
Yeah, visually I'd give that. Yeah.
But I also think in its characters and the way it was made, and just like, and the final product, I just think I can't remember watching a movie quite like this. And in terms of like, and I want to get into it in spoilers because there's certain things I do want to get into in spoilers.
But the bad guy's essentially Yzma. Like, he even has like the same goofy sidekick. Like,
oh no, Nathan, no. No. I disagree completely that the villain in this is anything like Yzma. Like I get you can make the comparison between the goofy sidekick and whatnot maybe, but gosh no, like I fundamentally disagree with that.
What about the songs? Like, to be honest with you, none of them were real bangers for me.
I think there was one song that I thought was like watching it again, but like listening to it again, I was like, yeah, these songs are great. Elton's great.
I don't know. This feels like he did Lion King and this was just a cheap paycheck. Like, none of them stuck. Like,
really?
Yeah.
The opening song's great. The bloody Blazing Trails, whatever the hell that song's called.
I couldn't hum to you a single fucking tune from this. And maybe because you've seen it heaps, maybe you've had the song, you've heard them enough now that they're like in your head. But like, for a one-time viewing, like, none of them really stand out.
El Dorado, 1,000 years ago.
It kind of reminds me how with Hercules they tried to make a kind of show tuney in that sound, like Vegas-y in that sense. It's like, it doesn't really match the source material.
But how would you rate the songs in Hercules?
Oh, not that good. Like, apart from...
Oh my god.
There's only 2 good songs in Hercules, mate. Zero to Hero and then the bloody opening song.
Oh dear, Nathan.
Whoa. He's like scrolling through my iTunes library like, what are all these star ratings?
I disagree completely. I think Hercules is great.
For its music, you mean?
Yeah, for sure.
Really?
Yeah,
man. Get out. Do you reckon the Russos are going to just chuck in all those tracks? Just like, they're going to throw all the songs in.
Whoa, man. That's a divisive opinion.
Wow.
Holy shit.
I said it has 2 bangers. I don't think the rest of that stand up. Like,
yeah. Oh man. Like,
what else is good in Hercules?
What music's good in Hercules? Fucking, I Can Go the Distance as like the Disney song.
It's
like
such a generic ballad.
Nathan.
He's just,
God,
Brenton's like, he's like looking at his birthday cake and he's just seeing like the chocolate melt a little bit. like the candles have gone out.
I haven't felt this way in a while, but I feel like, and it's not even to do with this movie. It's just like, I feel like that opinion about Hercules and like the music in this, like, I feel like I felt like when you said that no to Silence of the Lambs. Like, that's what that's the closest like feeling I can equate this to at the moment.
You just believe I'm fundamentally wrong, and it's like, I get that, mate.
Yeah. Oh man. Yeah. Like I'd have.
Brenton's like his little like cone hat's like sinking a little bit in his head, and he's like, this isn't the birthday I wanted.
There's one song in this I'd say that like, you know, is probably not that great, and it's It's Tough to Be a God. Like, I think, and even then I don't think it's that bad.
It's funny because there's so much talent in this movie as well. With like, because you got Elton John and Tim Rice. Like, yeah, it's and Hans Zimmer worked on this as well.
Yeah.
Like, it's all there. It's just, and that's maybe my biggest gripe with the movie. I can see it really trying. Like, I really can. Like, by the way, we'll get to this past to the people. I'm not alone, Brenton. You and I would have both read the RT score. Like,
I know that this movie was a mixed bag. I've always known it was a mixed bag when it came out and whatnot.
Yeah.
But I just think it's special. I think it's fun. Like, I'm not necessarily it's the best movie ever made or anything. I just think it does something, with its characters and whatnot. It's got an interesting setting. It's got an interesting story. I've always enjoyed it. And like, having not watched it for like many, many years, like since I was a child, and coming back to it, I was surprised to see like how well it held up, to be honest. And I think that there's plenty of people out there that would have missed this, when they were young, or have just missed this, no matter what age you are. And I think it's worth going back to and, watch the opening 40 minutes. And if you're not into it, like, stop it, obviously. But like, I think there will be a lot of people that will gravitate towards this and think it's a good time.
I don't know. I agree with you in the sense, like, I feel like there's very few people who would initially love this. Like, because I think the real crux of the movie is like, the dialogue and the exchange between Kevin Kline and Kenneth Branagh. Like, it props up the movie. You love these two characters. But I didn't give two fucks about Shell. Like, I didn't care where it was going. And like, in the same way you said, I've always loved this, and you still do. I feel like you're just reminiscing and reloving the good, because I feel like there's a lot of mediocre in here as well that kind of like is glossed over in sake of going, hey, let's go back to these two characters. And like, every time there's like a shit scene, it'll be followed by a scene where like the characters are like, oh, we're gonna have some jokes, and you're kind of back on board again. Like, it's not bad by any stretch. Like I didn't hate this movie. I there's so much I do like about it. I don't know. Maybe it's the same kind of thing I felt with Chicken Run. Maybe this is just a thing with me when we have like these like beloved children's films I'm seeing late. Like, maybe this is more with me, because I feel like this is now a recurring theme with these beloved children's properties, even like Land Before Time, if you go that far back, where I'm like, and I'm not saying you need it. I'm not saying you need to see it as a kid to love this movie. You probably don't, actually. There probably are adults who will love this, but like, I feel like that's selfish. I feel like Dudley right now. I'm like, I just wanted more. There's only 36, but last year, like I need that more.
But what would you have wanted? I guess we'll get into that in spoilers.
Yeah, maybe we should rate it. Like,
you're fond of me lobster, ain't you?
I feel like for a Thursday night, here's the thing as well, because rereading this movie, like how this movie was made, this was a fucking nightmare to make. Like, this movie went through so many drafts. There was a huge tonal shift. It was meant to be as dark as Prince of Egypt, and then they started making a comedy, which is why it's so tonally inconsistent at points. Like, there's really dark stuff. So, like, and I didn't find out this after, but it kind of reaffirmed my suspicions. So I'm like, you know what I mean? It's like almost when you watch Justice League, it's like you can definitely see two competing visions here.
Oh boy, he's comparing it to Justice League. Oh dear.
I don't want to be that guy, Brenton. I don't want to be the guy that derides El Dorado, but honestly, like, would I recommend this on the Thursday night? Oh.
Whilst you're umming and ahhing over it, and you're holding, Nathan's literally got his hands at the moment.
I do.
So I'll step in and give him a moment. I'll say this. Look, this movie, like I've said a few times now, I think that there's something special here. I think it's got its own identity, very much so. I think this is an hour 28 or something like that, and the fact that like it does what it does, and it manages to make you care about this relationship between these two guys. It makes you care about this community. It offers this fantastical kind of landscape in this world that these people exist in, and it takes you there. I think that this movie is worth watching, and something that if you missed it, I think like give it a try, give it a watch, see what you think. I think that like I said, the music's great, the animation quality is fantastic. I definitely think it's worth checking out. I think it's a good time, like Thursday night with your mates, like, and you just want to sit down and watch an animation that no one's seen before. Like, hell yeah, pop this on. It's great.
See, I agree with most of that. Like, you're right. Like, the animation is gorgeous, and like, the music isn't terrible. Like, and like the two main characters are so good, and this makes me want to see other like DreamWorks stuff now. I want to like get on board with like bloody other. Let's just rewatch. What else do they make? Let's rewatch Prince of Egypt again.
Yeah. See, I don't know. See, like I think Prince of Egypt's good. Like because we both said yes to Prince of Egypt.
We did.
I believe. Yeah, and. But at the same time, like, I'd watch this a million times before I watch that again. Not to say that Prince of Egypt's bad. I just think this is a good time.
The water looks really good. To give you that. They have good water animation in this. Oh, the gold as well. It shimmers. You know what? Big plus. The 3D animation in this works in the film's favor, which is very rare in 2D animated films.
It does.
This might actually be the only one that it's better for it.
Yeah, I mean, like, obviously you can pick it. Like, you can pick it. But I think you're right. I think it's because it's not overused. It's just kind of used in moments to elevate, like, usually like climactic moments as well. It's used in. So yeah, good on it.
Yeah, like there's a lot to love in this movie. But like, and if you've got a family watching this movie, like, yeah, put it on for them, but I don't know. I really don't know. I feel like I do want to say no to it just because I knew it could be so much better, but I shouldn't say no to a movie just because I know it could be better, because by that definition, all movies could be better.
Don't let me, because you seemed set on a decision before, but like,
I know, but you raise good points, like, because honestly, because my only real main issue, like, truly, is like, narratively, it could have been better. And when I think of all the other departments, was it badly directed? No. Could have been better acted? No. Like, it kind of is just the writing for me. So, like, and I think that comes to me, like, bad writing is enough to sink a ship in my...
Yeah, but the writing's not bad. The dialogue's snappy and it's good. Like, just because it's got a simple premise necessarily and it doesn't go to the extent it could. Because, like, complicated plots can fold as well. Like, you know what I mean? Like, there's always, like, the thing of, like, keep it simple, keep it stupid, and, like, and detail it out from there. And I think this is a difference between you and me. I'm not saying one's right or wrong. The more we do this show, as we've done it for many, many episodes...
So many.
The more I realize, like, the differences in us. And like, it's funny because, like, I'm so not about that. Like I like if there's something like, say, Inception that's like so fucking like full on and you really have to be on board with, but it executes it really well at the same time and it brings it together, and so it's amazing. Like, yeah, that's great, but like I'm still happy to watch something like this where like I don't need the extras necessarily or need something deeper, as long as it's done really well, and sometimes the deepness is in that.
Yeah, and you know what? I think you just answered it for me. I am gonna say no, and the reason why is that I don't think this movie has thematic depth that I wanted to be married to this. I don't think I learned anything from this movie that I couldn't have gotten a better lesson from in other children's films. And also, I kind of do take issue with like almost kind of like a disrespect they give like the Mayan culture when they arrive into there. Like yes, they try and change like human sacrifices like that, but again, they're kind of making it their own, and there's something with it just doesn't sit right for me. And you could argue maybe I'm being too PC, but like there's just something isn't right about it. Like, but also like how it kind of treats colonization. Like, yeah, I'm gonna give it a no. I'm so sorry that took so long, but like
that's all
sometimes
right.
you got to talk these things through, Brenton. I know you charge by the hour, but this just means you get paid more.
Hey man, I do charge by the hour. That's why we started this show. I said, look, if we're going to do this consistently, I want to make all the cash dollars I can. I want to find that lost city of gold. I want to fucking get a boat in 3 days, and I want to...
Oh my god, we're going to talk about that. Actually, let's talk about that right now. All right, spoilers. You spoiled it.
What?
The movie.
Oh.
They built a boat in like 3 days.
No, but it's how they build the boat that is hilarious
God.
in this movie. You cannot build a boat that is going to float and like is going to be seaworthy and go through the ocean and go through storms from like one fucking tree. You know what I mean? Like carve it out.
What?
They just carve a boat like out of this one giant piece of wood.
This is and this is like 16th century ancient Mayans. Like, he says a week to start off with, which is already an insane deadline. I'm like, even right now in 2020, building a ship in a week is like insane. So like, he's like, yeah, we'll build you it in a week, and I'm like, okay.
The end product looks awesome.
And here's the thing: they're an isolated inland civilization. How the fuck do they know what a boat is like of that scale?
Totally. But like they build it, my question is though, like in terms of the plan, like if you're going to get the boat out of there, right?
Yeah.
Because that tunnel goes to like some fucking like knee-high water, like...
You're in the middle of the Amazon for all we know.
Barely a stream, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
How are they going to get it seaworthy and get it to the ocean with
These
3
are
people
all
and a
really
horse?
good questions. Even with their little like cork, like let's have a giant wave and ride it out like we're in fucking Surf's Up. Let's get out of there like that. Like I don't think that would still push them enough to get to the ocean.
I've always thought that's like a narrative issue in the movie. Like even as a kid, I was like, if they're getting in a boat and they're going to sail back to Spain, like how's that boat getting to the sea?
Also, it's just the 3 of them on a boat. Are they just like solely just the 2 of them rowing like at a time, like to Spain across like the Atlantic Ocean?
They got the sail. They seem to have, I think there's 2 rudders on it as well. Like they've got 2 rudders and then they've...
There's like one guy in a tinny just like pulling the motor just at the back. Just
Pretty much, eh?
Yeah.
And then like it's so funny because like there's no like it's just gold. Like there's like you don't see like a hull or anything.
Nah.
Like can they?
Yeah, why did you put this in the ship rather than on top of the ship? Like, was there no storage? And what's really funny as well, this is a genuine question I have for you, Brenton. Where are they? Like, where in the world actually are they? Like, where have they set this ancient empire?
I have no idea.
Me neither.
I have no idea. Is it like, you know?
Because they get off the ship right before Cuba, because at least we know that point. But then, like, they're on the boat with the horse, presumably overnight, or maybe for a couple days, and then they just wash ashore to, like, El Dorado.
Somewhere.
Yeah, like, somewhere. It could be South America, could be the Caribbean. And, like, there's a montage of them having, like, their little road trip. But, like, how does that go for weeks then? Like, where are they?
I don't know. I love that montage, though. There's so many fun things that happen in that montage.
Yeah.
I love the setup as well when they arrive when they get to the shore and he's still got the map, like, and
Oh my god.
and he starts going like, you know, like he does you like in the valley in Brisbane, like when you were giving me the tour.
Look at that.
Look at this thing. Look at that thing. The stream, you know, let's follow that trail.
Oh.
Nathan, you are Miguel. Like, that's why you hate this movie, is because, like, at heart, you are Miguel.
Oh my god. I don't want to be Miguel. I want to be Tulio. But here's the thing as well. Miguel I really had issue with because like sometimes he's a little bit too idiotic or too moronic. I'm like, mate, you gotta read the room. Like, I know Tulio's like, you need to have like a conscious voice, but I'm like, Miguel, come on, mate. You're not that naive.
I think there's a good balance between them too. But like, what example would you give of like when he is maybe a bit too thick?
Okay, classic example was when he like goes off exploring. Like Tulio's like, okay, I'm gonna have some roots with Shell. Get the fuck out of here. And he's like, okay. So like he leaves, and then
Whoa, whoa.
and then yeah, that's the dialogue in the children's film. And then like he's like walking about, and he's like seeing like everyone like, you know, run around, and he's like strumming the guitar and that kind of stuff. He keeps on asking for everyone to be spared, but I'm like, I know you're doing the right thing, but you're really making it obvious that you're not a god.
Yeah, but I like that about him. I like that he can't sit still, like watch this shit go down. Like,
No.
Tulio's like, man, like, lay low, get the fuck out, just let them fucking be crazy or whatever, and we'll get out of here like straight away. He's like, get the fuck out, and we'll like take care of ourselves. Whereas like Miguel is, you know, he's the liberal. He's there and he's just like he wants, you know, he wants what's best for
He
the
looks
people,
it
and he
too.
doesn't want to see anyone hurt. You know, I love that segment when he goes into the city and he's fucking playing with the kids, and he's like,
Oh, he's a good
he
guy.
He makes the guitar and he's just like interacting with them all, and you're like, oh, that's nice. And then they play the fucking ball game.
Oh my god. Christ, does this give you like bedknobs and broomsticks vibes?
Yeah,
A
dude.
gratuitous sport game just thrown in there for the masses, you know?
I love that the armadillo comes in and saves the day with the ball
Oh
thing.
my god. And I love how like visibly exhausted it is by the end as well.
I know, right?
Like it's just kind of like stumbling about. But I did some research. That was an actual ball game they played back in the day.
Was
Like
it?
that sport exists from ancient Mayan culture. Like that's what it is.
Wow.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like basketball.
But with a side hoop.
Like it's
yeah.
basically.
Isn't that fascinating? Like
That is fascinating.
Yeah.
And you know, I was sitting there thinking, and I was like, because, you know, like they have this stadium, they have this like kind of thing in this community that like loves this sport or whatever.
Yeah.
I was thinking, like, could you play this in real life? Like, and I was like, you probably could, but it'd be extremely
go on
difficult.
YouTube. There are videos of it. Like it's really cool.
Dude, I want to now. Like, that's awesome.
It's a good time. And yeah, like sure it was kind of fun like having that little sports scene, but like I don't know if it did much. It felt kind of like out of the blue. It's like, okay, this is how they prove they're gods. Like
Yeah, I like the end of it though. I like the climax though, when like, you know, obviously the priest is then like, let's sacrifice the team, you know, of our best warriors. Good one, priest.
Yeah.
And because there's a moment of violence in that as well, that like basically
Yeah, when he gets clocked with the blood.
I remember watching it and being like, holy fuck, like that was
Yeah, why did they include that?
why that? And then like you see why in the next moment that like he has like
The priest is like, do you bleed?
yeah, pretty
and
much.
then Miguel's like, you will. Like, yeah. It reminds me a lot of like Willem Dafoe and Toby when like he's like bleeding in like the dining hall and you see the little drop of blood come down.
Yeah,
Like,
totally.
yeah.
Totally. Yeah, it is. It's that moment. And next minute, the priest decides to make a fucking Jaguar transformer.
Oh my god. Christ, that's the most like insert merchandise here moment, isn't it? Just like
I can't remember like any merchandise from this film though. I don't
no.
think
Well,
there was
hey,
any, like, to
here's
be
a
honest.
classic thing. It bombed. I mean, we could also mention that later on, but like
I think that's obvious though. Like I'm not surprised it bombed. Like
No.
I've never been like shocked that it bombed.
But yeah, you never saw these little like Jaguar rock things like in the playground did back in the day, did you?
Dude, but like I remember thinking that shit was cool as a kid and being like, holy fuck, man. Like shit just got real.
It's like a 5-year-old sitting in front of the screen just being, holy fuck. Like, here you
Yeah.
go.
Dad's like, Brenton language. It's like, fuck me, Dad. It's a Jaguar. It's giant.
Oh. And you know what? It is horrifying.
Yeah, the moment shit got real is when he pushes his lackey into that fucking
Oh,
potion.
jeez. Yeah.
And then it comes to life, and like the piece of animation when he has like the sinister laugh and he shakes his
Yeah.
shoulders, and the Jaguar shakes his shoulders as well. You're like, oh man.
Here we go.
Actually, that's a great moment too, when it's the reveal happens, and then we go to like the feast, like the goodbye feast for the gods, and then next minute, like that temple just like bursts open, and the Jaguar
I think
comes
it's that
out.
thing where a character says like nothing could go wrong now or something like that. And then like the thing comes open and you're just like, oh, okay. Because also Miguel's an idiot. Okay, here's the main reason why Miguel's an idiot. Because he's like, oh, let's stay. Like, fuck it. I've now fallen in love with the village in the most obvious character arc ever. So let's just stay and like live as gods. And I'm like, mate, this charade will not hold up. Like,
But to be fair to him, the reason that I think it would be okay is because the chief knows he's not a god.
yeah. And I think the chief is just like, you guys are good, so I don't care. Like,
Yeah. And I think the community knows they're not gods as well.
Mm.
I think that there's a moment where they go, these are just two guys and we like them. You know what I mean? We like having them around and
They're all right. They throw some good chat. Take a seat. Like,
Yeah.
we'll be your servants. Like, yeah, and they do save the day. So I feel like it's earned at the end of the film when they actually do something
Yeah.
for that culture. And also they get rid of human sacrifices. Sure, let's throw that in.
well, no, they get rid of the one advocate in human sacrifice
Yeah.
in the town.
And also,
You know what I mean?
really? The priest is the only bad guy in town. Like, you're a society.
That's what I mean. Like, that's my issue with the movie is that like it's like, hang on a second, he's your link to the gods, and like no one buys into this. Everyone's like, oh, it's so horrible, and it's like, yeah, but like, isn't this like something that's ingrained in your culture or meant to be? If like your elder is like seriously advocating,
Yeah.
and he.
And by the way, he has magic. Like, he knows what he believes is true.
Yeah, that's the thing as well. Like, in terms of like continuity, it's like, do these gods really exist? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
It's really funny because it really tosses it up with it. Like at the scene when like they're first introduced and the volcano goes apeshit when like Tulio's
Yeah.
like whinging. I'm like, that's the biggest coincidence that's ever existed. Or no, the deities are like playing the role of this.
There's a bigger coincidence in another film that features the Mayan culture that you haven't
Oh my
seen.
god, are you gonna bring up Mel Gibson's Apocalypto?
I am. There is a coincidence to end all coincidences that happens in that film. That is similar to what happens in this movie with the volcano.
Am I gonna hate it just as much for that? Like,
You will, but you'll laugh because we should watch it now. We should just watch that movie and then like we'll get to it. And it's around the same point structurally in the movie, and it'll happen, and you'll just look at me, and I think you'll just laugh.
just be like,
you won't get angry, you'll just fucking laugh because like it's too much of a coinky dink, as they say.
oh god, I'll wait for like the rock monster to rock up at the end. I'll be like, come on, Mel Gibson, fight it for me. Like, here we go.
But I do agree with you. It is a coincidence with the volcano, obviously. Like it's. But I like that they bring the volcano back at the end too in the jaguar fight. That like.
Yeah, because they're in like the lava and that kind of stuff. I'm like, this is a very quick chase scene. Like they're going through a lot of different locations very quickly. I love as well when the rock monster's like running about, he gets stomps on one of the civilians, and you hear this very faint "I'm okay." I'm like, bullshit. You are dead.
I thought about it. It's one of those moments as well where it's like, I thought that was so funny too. Like watching that as an adult, it's like clearly that line's put into like, you know.
Reassure the kiddies.
because they have the joke beforehand that he's like, oh my God, he survived. And he's like, I'm okay. And then he gets crushed. And then it's like, I'm still okay. Like, and that's a funny gag. I think it's a very funny self-aware gag, like at the same time. But like, you're right. That guy is just, even if he did survive, he's not.
Oh my God.
He's going to be like Kenneth Branagh in Wild Wild West. Let's just put it that way.
There's like, there's some gags that work, but there's some gags that don't. Maybe because I'm looking into this too literally. Like at the start of the movie when they like fall into the barrels and like they're onto the ship, I'm like, there's no way on earth I'd survive that. When they like jump off the edge of the bridge from like the chasing, they land in the barrels. I'm like, that fall should kill you. I'm like, you shouldn't survive this.
But if you start going the amount of shit that happens in animations, like for kids, of like when people should die, it's like it's a as long as it's consistent,
Yeah.
you know.
Case in point, when I had to suspend my disbelief the most was when the horse got them the fucking keys.
Dude, I love it. I love it so much. It's so funny. It's so funny because again, it's so self-aware because like Tulio's like, you're talking to a fucking horse, dude. Like, what the fuck are you doing?
He's
like,
not gonna get a crowbar for you.
And like that line's great as well. But he's like, well, it's not a pry bar.
Yeah, and it's just the keys, and I'm like, you know what? As well, what I really loved about that moment was when they were stranded on the boat with the horse, and they were like floating in the ocean. I really hoped that the movie was going to go in a direction where it turned into Life of Pi,
Oh gosh.
where the movie's just them and the horse in the ocean, just like stranded,
Hanging out.
Yeah. Like, I really, really love that. Yeah. Did you notice as well, like, with that ship, there's a shot with the DreamWorks moon?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I only noticed that in this viewing as well. I was like, oh, hey.
I was like,
look at
hey.
that.
So did they get that from this? Obviously, the logo must have existed beforehand, but like...
Yeah, I think it's just like a little Easter egg, a little fun thing that someone put in.
I'm like, all right, that's good. And it's really funny because, like, at the start of the movie, it really sets up, like, the Spanish, like, bad guy, Cortez or whatever, as the main villain. Like, he's like, we're gonna fucking go there. It's funny because I can't take him seriously. He looks like such a buffoon.
He's got a really good design. I
Yeah.
do like his design. It's so odd. Like, his facial structure is just fucking all over the place.
He just looks like that, like, jock who was just, like, brought up in, like, the rich right family and, like, he just got given this job. And, like, I feel like if we spent any more time with him, we'd suddenly find out he's a bumbling idiot. Like,
Yeah, totally. But like in saying that, like I know you say it like sets him up, but doesn't really. Like he's just like he has like two little sentences basically of just like, hey man, I'm in fucking business and I'm gonna send you guys to be slaves in fucking Cuba.
and here's the thing, like if you didn't know what happened to the Mayan culture, by the Spaniards, I don't think there'd be much tension with him in this movie. Like, if you're a kid, right, you don't know that the Mayans get fucked over by the Spanish. Like, you're kind of like, why are they here?
I remember thinking he meant shit though. I was like, oh man, that guy means business. Like, and I was like, oh, he's like a forceful presence. I personally really like the tie-in of him at the end that they find El Dorado, they find this priest that leads them to it, and then it's like destroyed basically, and he's like, well, we move on. You know what I mean? Like, and it's like they never find it. I love that, and I love that he's not really a villain. He's just there. He's just there to.
I was kind of waiting for a battle with him.
Yeah, I don't need it personally because it's funny because the climax of the movie like is that whole like boat sequence at the end, right? Like the Jaguar thing like pulls you for a loop because you're like, that was really quick, and it's like, yeah, because it's not really the climax of the movie, and that is kind of your battle, like your action set piece is that kind of Jaguar fight anyway. So if we'd had another one, I don't know, like
it would have felt a little bit tacked on, wouldn't it? It's like aha,
totally.
no, I'm the villain. It's like,
and I always just like that they just never find it. Like it's just like, you know,
I do
it
like
is
that,
the lost city.
But I was kind of waiting for like an Atlantis ending where we had like Milo like live with the people. It's like I was expecting it to go that direction.
It does set it up, and this is probably the bit that I would say maybe isn't earned. Like it is to a certain extent, but it's not. Is then when Miguel is like, yeah, man, like I'm back in the team. You know, I'm with you guys.
Yeah.
Really, like like if you're gonna follow it through, like those characters probably should have been separated at the end of it.
Yeah, and it's like, interesting thing about that as well, because Miguel's like, oh, I'll come back with you. It's like, but we don't get his motivation, but we also don't get Chell's.
Yeah, it sets it up.
Yeah.
I thought that as well this viewing. I was like, it was like, we set her up, and I don't mind the character. Like, we set her up, and she's like, hey man, like, you know, you're not the only ones that need to get away from somewhere, or like,
Yeah, she's like, I have my mysterious past. Like,
want a better life, and we never discover it. That feels like an omission. Like it was in there at some point, and it just got cut. It's on the cutting room floor somewhere, and it's such a shame because I do want that, because I do like her. Like I said, I like at the end that she gets on the horse and fucking like knocks the two guys off and rides off, and they're like,
reminds me
hey.
of the ending of like Dirty Rotten Scoundrels where the girl rocks up at the end. You're just like, what?
Totally,
Yeah,
totally.
I love as well, like the horse has some great facial expressions in this movie.
Oh, dude. The best one is the reveal of El Dorado. Like, it's one of the funniest. There's two funny. Oh, I shouldn't talk about this because we're going to talk about it later, but there's a lot of horse gags in this movie that I adore.
But I love when he has like the golden hoofs at the end, and you're like, oh, there is some gold that they can have.
That's one of them. That's one of them. And like, it's such a funny piece of animation when he just like, he sees the golden hooves and he's like, oh shit. And then he just like turns around, hides it, and then just lowers the hooves beneath the rock. Like, it's so funny.
Oh,
so
it's
funny.
so good. But like, I kind of wanted from the movie how they got El Dorado in the first place. Like, in the same way with Atlantis, we kind of saw how they survived all these years. In this movie, we don't really get why the city is made of gold or how that works, or like
why there's like the equivalent of like, you know, ancient prehistoric creatures like in this like one place.
Yeah, the giant koi fish in the river. It's like, what's going on here? Like
the guys like on the turtle's back as it's fucking like swimming and whatnot, and they're just all hanging out.
I'm like, what's going on?
I always took the gold thing as that it was just like a plentiful, you know, it was just like one of those places that, you know, is just has a high capacity of gold, you know.
Yeah, we're waiting for like Indy to rock up, and like, you know, they rock up to the city and he's like, knowledge was their real gold. We were waiting for that line. Like they two rock up and they're just like, oh, there is no gold here.
I thought as well, like in terms of like logistically, you think these things as an adult, and like you don't want it in a kids movie really, but like I was thinking like, who the fuck crafts all this? Where are like the crafters? Like where are all the people that are like, you know, using this gold to make this?
Where is this coming from?
It's like the scene when they're like to Shibalba, and they like throw the gold into like the random little pool that like goes to the spirit world or whatever. It's like that's a lot of like craftsmanship and work that's going into like all the goldware, like, you know.
And here's the thing as well, we find out that whirlpool opens up to a random river because the priest survives the fall. So that means all the gold that they throw down there is going somewhere, but we don't know where.
So part of me, when like they find the priest like in the pond, like as in like, you know, Cortez is like, you know, where'd you find these? Like, you know, it'd be cool. It would have been a cool moment if
the priest just points to the